Thank you all for joining the webinar on the premises warranty in the AIR CRE leases. I'll start with a brief introduction, a lot of familiar faces, plenty of new ones as well. If you don't know me, Usman Muhammad, I've been a real estate lawyer for 20 years. I led the real estate practice at one of the oldest law firms in downtown LA. And in 2017, I founded Consensus Legal. And at Consensus Legal, we focus on commercial sales and leasing transactions. As far as the AIR CRE contracts, many of you know, I would probably refer to myself as an AIR nerd. I love these contracts. They're really well drafted. They make transactions easier, quicker from a time and cost perspective, and they are the best contracts out there, in my opinion. So today's focus, as I mentioned, as you all know, is the premises warranty. I have a few topics to cover and discuss with you all. This is a discussion, so please feel free to unmute along the way, to ask questions along the way. After this 20-minute webinar, I'll also stay on for questions and answers for at least 15 or 20 minutes, as long as you have questions. Final note before we begin, we are not affiliated with or sponsored by AIR CRE, and I'm not providing legal advice during these webinars. It is for education and discussion purposes. You knew there'd be a disclaimer. I am a lawyer after all. So without further ado, let me share my screen. What I'm going to share is the single tenant net lease. So this is the AIR industrial commercial single tenant net lease. So there's a number of AIR CRE leases, as you probably are all aware. The four most common that are used are the industrial commercial leases. There's the single tenant net, single tenant gross, multi-tenant net, multi-tenant gross. So those are the most common. And so I will get into the differences in the premises warranty among the different leases. But for now, let's stick with these four industrial commercial leases, which all have basically the same warranty. So the term premises warranty, when I say that, I'm referring to paragraph 2.2 of the lease. The term premises warranty is not used, but that's the term that maybe a lot of lawyers would use to describe the warranty in 2.2. So there are three key components of the premises warranty in the AIR lease. And this is a good warranty for tenants, and I think it's a fair warranty overall. So the first component of the premises warranty is what I would refer to as the building systems warranty. So in 2.2, lessor warrants that the existing electrical, plumbing, fire sprinkler, lighting, HVAC, loading doors, sump pumps, that they are all in good operating condition. So this is what I call the building systems warranty. That's the first part of the overall, you can call it a premises warranty. And the first part of it is this building systems warranty. The second portion of the premises warranty is what I would refer to as a structural warranty. The lessor warrants that the structural elements of the roof, bearing walls, and foundation shall be free of material defects. And hopefully you can all see the lease that I'm sharing. Hopefully it's visible and it's working well, the share screen feature. So that's the second component, the structural warranty. The third component of the premises warranty is here. It is that the lessor warrants that the premises does not contain hazardous levels of mold or fungi under applicable law. So that's the third component. Now, this is not a warranty that there's no hazardous substances on the premises or in the soils. That's dealt with elsewhere in the lease in paragraph 6. This is just mold or fungi, that there are not hazardous levels. So those are the three components of the premises warranty: the building systems warranty, the structural warranty, as I call it, and the mold or fungi warranty. So that's the basics of it. Now, what happens if there's a problem with one of these three categories of items? Well, what the lessee can do is the lessee can inform the lessor, and the lessor has to correct it. Now, there's a deadline there's a deadline to report these issues to the lessor. And the deadlines are here. The warranty periods are here. For the HVAC, it's a 6-month warranty, as you see. And for the other aspects, the other elements of the warranty, it's 30 days. Now I'm going to stop there and I'll give you a pop quiz. That's 6 months, that 6-month warranty period and that 30-day warranty period. When does that warranty period begin? Anyone have an answer?
Occupancy.
I heard occupancy.
Yeah,
and
correct.
And that's a great answer. That's a great answer. And that's correct. The warranty periods begin from the start date. And what is the start date? The start date is the earlier of the commencement or the early possession date. This is a really important point because you'll have leases, as you all know, where there's early occupancy, and it could be 14 days, but it could be a number of months as well, early possession. And a lot of people believe that these warranties begin from the commencement date of the lease. But if you've had early possession for 2 months and you're not doing much in the premises, if you're a tenant, you're not really testing things out, you're not really using the premises all that much, and then there's a commencement date, you find out an issue and you report it to the landlord, well, that 30 days has passed and that warranty has expired. It's still there for the HVAC because the HVAC is 6 months. So you need to be cautious about, and I've seen a lot of tenants negotiate the beginning of these warranty periods, that it should begin on the commencement date. So that timing issue is a detail, but it's important. Another pop quiz: are there any circumstances where the lessee can lose this warranty, where this warranty is either voided or it doesn't apply?
Upon their tenant improvements, starting with their tenant improvements.
Yes, the warranty does not apply. Good comment, Greg. The warranty does not apply to the tenant improvements. So if lessee is making improvements, improving the building systems in some respect, upgrading electrical, the building systems warranty would not apply to that. And then I see a comment in the chat box. Thomas Merrick, if they don't get the maintenance agreement, yes, very good point, Thomas. And that's what I was getting at. And I'll go back and share the screen and I'll just click on this. This warranty does not apply. It's essentially void if within 30 days following the start date, remember the start date is the earlier of early possession or commencement date. If the service contracts under paragraph 7.1b are not obtained by lessee, then the premises warranty is void. So the service contracts in a single tenant lease, I'll go down to 7.1b real quick. In a single tenant lease, the service contracts are quite extensive. It's not just the HVAC service contract, but it's all these other items: boiler and pressure vessels, fire extinguishing systems, landscaping, roof covering and drains clarifiers. With the multi-tenant leases, the service contracts are a lot more limited. It's the HVAC, clarifiers if there are, and I think like boiler and pressure vessels if there are any. So it's more limited in multi-tenant leases, but in the single tenant net and gross leases, there's a number of service contracts that need to be obtained in those first 30 days. That's one situation where this warranty does not apply. There's a second situation that's a little tougher where this warranty does not apply. Does anyone know the second situation? Yes, Ryan Riley, exactly. He said parties already in possession. Great answer. And I will share the screen. If you go down to paragraph 2.5 of the lease, the warranties made by lessor in paragraph 2, that includes the premises warranty, shall be of no force or effect if immediately prior to the start date, lessee was the owner or occupant of the premises. So some situations where that comes up, one common situation, of course, is a subtenant. You have a subtenant that has been subleasing the premises. The sublease term expires. The subtenant enters into a direct lease with the lessor. That subtenant and new direct tenant does not get the benefit of the premises warranty. Any other situations you can think of where the warranties wouldn't apply? Well, it says owner or occupant, so I'll get to it. A sale leaseback transaction. The new tenant was the owner of the premises. It sold the premises, and now in this leaseback transaction, it leased it. So in a sale leaseback transaction, the intent is that this warranty also would not apply. So this is a pretty fair provision, in my opinion, paragraph 2.5. But the one thing I will caution on sale leaseback transactions is that oftentimes you have the seller of the property, maybe an affiliate of the new tenant. Sometimes, you have a property, you have an operating business, and there'll be a separate affiliated entity that actually owns the property. And when that affiliated owner of the property sells it, that affiliated owner may not be the tenant. It may be the operating business that is the tenant, but it's still probably covered because it was the occupant. But anyway, there can sometimes be affiliates. So in a sale leaseback transaction, that's just something to be a little cautious about. So we're at 12:16. We have a few more minutes before I get into some of the differences in the other lease forms, and I'll try to cover those briefly. I'll just momentarily pause for any questions you may have on what we've discussed so far. And I'll look.
Would you be able to use this lease for an absolute net, or what would we have to make changes to it if you're doing an absolute net instead of a triple net lease?
Would you have to change the premises warranty?
No. Would you have to change the actual lease? Add an addition,
yeah.
Or how would you work it? Because you have a single tenant net lease. If you want to do an absolute net, not a triple net, but an absolute net, how would you modify the lease to do that?
That's a good question. The single tenant net lease for the AIR single tenant net lease does shift essentially all the responsibility for the premises to the tenant. There are a few tweaks you have to make, Greg, to address that, which is maybe beyond the scope of kind of the premises warranty. So maybe at the end of the Q&A, I can try to address that in a little more detail.
Thank you.
Sure. And I'm looking at the chat box. Christina asked, is it a rent commencement date? A good question. No, it is not a rent commencement date, Christina. The AIR CRE lease uses the term commencement date. So when we're talking about the beginning of the warranty periods, we're talking about the earlier of possession or the commencement date. And the commencement date is not necessarily when the rent begins. So it could be 1 month of free, the first month could be free rent, but the commencement date has still occurred. Looking through the chat box, in retail we have different dates. So it is a little confusing. Okay, you're right, Christina. And that's a good segue into discussing the other lease forms, because the first other lease form that I'll go to is, and let me share the screen again. I'll go into the retail lease. And I think a lot of people aren't aware that AIR has a shopping center lease. It's a really good lease. It has a couple tweaks from the standard commercial one, but I'll just mention that this warranty, the premises warranty, Christina and everyone else, in this shopping center lease is actually very similar to the industrial commercial, the 4 industrial commercial lease forms. And as you alluded to, Christina, even in the shopping center lease, there is not a rent commencement date. Oftentimes in attorney drafted lease forms in the retail context, we'll have a commencement date and a rent commencement date. There is no such additional rent commencement date concept in the AIR lease, in the AIR shopping center lease. But the premises warranty is very similar, and it's triggered based off the commencement date, not any rent commencement date. And it's just about 12:20. So I'll just mention that in the office, the 2 office leases, there's, the multi-tenant office lease gross and the multi-tenant office lease net. There are some differences in the premises warranty. We won't go through them in tremendous detail, but I'll just mention that, this building systems warranty is here. It's sump pumps and loading doors are not included. It's an office lease. There's a structural warranty, and then there is that third category, the mold or fungi warranty as well. And you don't see the warranty periods because the landlord does have a lot of ongoing responsibility in these office leases. It's more comprehensive, the lessor responsibilities. So with that, we're at 12:21. I will stop for questions and answers. Of course, if you need to go, feel free, but I will hang on for at least 15, 20 minutes as long as you have questions.
This one, can you give us an idea of what if the leaser provides service contracts, what the warranty is?
Yes. So in these leases, and I'm going to go back to the single tenant net lease. So going back to service contracts 7.1b, Edith made a really excellent point about lessor providing contracts. And if you notice this last sentence of 7.1b, lessor reserves the right to procure and maintain any and all service contracts, and lessee shall reimburse lessor upon demand for the cost thereof. So if the lessor elects to obtain service contracts, then of course the lessee doesn't have to get those to avoid losing its warranty. But the default position, Edith and everyone, is that the lessee obtains them, and the lessee needs to have them in place within 30 days. And oftentimes this election by the lessor may happen later. So the lessee should be cognizant and diligent in making sure that unless the lessor has elected to obtain service contracts, that lessee obtains all of those in 7.1b. And looking through the chat box, Kyle asked a question: could the phrase "and all other such elements" create a warranty of something the landlord may not want to be responsible for, such as a previous tenant's security system? A great question, Kyle. I'm so glad you joined these seminars, these webinars. And let's go back to the language. And what Kyle is referring to is this building systems warranty. And it says lessor warrants that the existing electrical, plumbing, fire sprinkler, HVAC, loading doors, sump pumps, and any and all other such elements in the premises. How might that be interpreted? And Kyle is asking, a previous tenant's security system. Possible. I don't have a definitive answer for you. It says all other such elements in the premises, Kyle. And could a tenant say that a security system is similar to these? I think it's a little bit of a stretch, but the tenant could make an argument. That's my off the cuff answer for you. It's vague. It's a vague answer, but I think it's subject to interpretation. What do you think, Kyle?
I need to consult with my attorney. It just seemed vague to me to leave that wide open, so that's why I asked.
Yeah, I mean, the AIR does have these type of provisions, which can be vague. And, overall, I like the approach because this is not a custom lease where you're negotiating every detail. If you are, it defeats the purpose of a form contract. So it's using the term all other such elements, and there is some vagueness there. But I think it's a good way of dealing with it. Thomas asks a question: what if there is a fire and the main electrical meter is damaged? Even if it is lessor's responsibility to bring power to the property, is it still lessee's responsibility to fix and repair? A good question, Tom. That relates to probably paragraph 9 of the leases. Damage and destruction. And in general, when there's damage and destruction to the property, the lessor is responsible to make the repairs, except to the tenant improvements, like lessee's improvements. There is kind of an exception to lessor making the repairs. If there's, I believe, repairs damage of less than $10,000, that the lessor can require the lessee to repair the damage at lessor's cost. There's insurance coverage, presumably, but the lessee would have to repair it. Your other question: cannot say as is and avoid warranty, right? Okay, this is also a very good question. So Thomas brings up a very good point. I see language frequently And sometimes it's in broker prepared leases, sometimes it's in lawyer prepared leases. You have an addendum and it says lessee is taking the premises as is. And the question I think that Tom is raising is whether that voids the premises warranty in 2.2. And I think that's an excellent question, because a lot of times in an addendum, you'll have language that the addendum overrides and controls with respect to any provisions in the form lease to the contrary. You'll have that type of language. And if lessee acknowledges in its in an addendum like that it's taking the premises as is, there is a reasonable argument for the lessor to say that this premises warranty in 2.2 does not apply. And even this is beyond the scope, but even the compliance warranty in 2.3, this compliance warranty, which we'll discuss at a later date, hopefully, also does not apply. So yeah, you have to be careful with that as is language. And it also gets to, many of you are brokers, you prepare letters of intent, and I've seen different approaches in letters of intent. A lot of tenant brokers will want to include some type of premises warranty language in the LOI. And sometimes you see landlord brokers include as is language in the LOI. And if there's as is language, there's an argument that there are no warranties that tenant is entitled to in the lease. And that's why one of the reasons I think some tenant brokers like to include in the LOI a premises warranty. And I see, Greg, you have your hand raised. So please go ahead.
The simplest thing, because the form allows you to strike and add, and that's the benefit of having these forms. I just put as is, where is at the beginning of that paragraph and strike everything.
Yeah.
So therefore, There's no addendum that you have to look at. There's nothing secret. And our form allows, it changes the color and also allows it to be visible. So that's the easiest way if you're going to do an as is, where is on that section.
Yep. Great recommendation. I like that. It's a very clear way of doing it. Yep. I see a question from Hector in the chat box. I have a client whose AC has been broken since they moved in 9 months ago and the HVAC has not been repaired. Landlord has been dragging its feet. What recourse does the tenant have? The space is unusable due to heat. It gets to about 94 degrees inside. Wow. That is hotter. I'm not in downtown LA. I'm in Pasadena. That's Pasadena is going to be 97 or 100 degrees today. So that 94 degrees inside is very hot. So what recourse does the tenant have? Well, hopefully the tenant has given written notice within the 6-month warranty period. And hopefully its service contracts were in place within 30 days. And in such a situation, the lessor is responsible at lessor's expense to repair it. If the lessor does not do that, refuses to do so, it's a breach of contract. There's also, Hector, a provision in the AIR lease, and I will skip down to it. It's a little beyond the scope, but it's also relevant to your issue, and I think we can discuss it quickly. It's 13.6, I believe. Yes, 13.6b. So this says that in the event that lessor has not cured a breach within 30 days, then lessee may elect to cure said breach at lessee's expense and offset from rent the actual and reasonable cost to perform such cure. So there's a self-help right under the AIR lease, but it's a limited self-help right because it says, provided, however, that such offset shall not exceed an amount equal to the greater of 1 month's base rent or the security deposit. So there is a potential self-help right, a limited one here. And a lot of landlords, Hector, that are represented by counsel, a lot of the landlords we represent want that self-help right to be deleted. But it's a limited one. AIR, striking that balance between landlord and tenant rights. It's not giving the tenant an unlimited self-help right. I'm looking in the chat box. There's a question about commissions. Fuzz notes it's an off-topic question. That's a can of worms Good question. So relevant to what's going on these days. I don't think I have as much expertise probably as so many brokers and brokerage firms. So I don't think I'm the best person to answer that question. Allegra asks, based on Hector's point, could the lessor be protected with the as is line? Yes. If there's as is language that's viewed as overriding the 2.2 premises warranty, then yes, lessor could be protected there. Daniel asks, should the HVAC, if it's beyond repairable and needs to be replacement, who would be responsible at that point? Yeah, that's a good question, Daniel. I'll try to answer it briefly and I'll share my screen quickly. HVAC is an issue that comes up so often, as you all know. Repairing it and replacing it, industrial leases, but other leases also. It's a key item of negotiation, and it's kind of a legal item that is a hybrid item. It's actually in many respects a business item because it can affect the economics. And I'm going to highlight 7.1D for you here, Daniel. And what this says, this is the single tenant net lease. If an item in paragraph 7.1B, so 7.1B is the service contracts section, includes the HVAC equipment, right? If an item described in 7.1B cannot be repaired at a cost which is in excess of 50% of the cost of replacing, then such item shall be replaced by lessor. So lessor has to undertake the replacement, and the cost is going to be split. It's going to be prorated between the parties, and lessee shall be obligated to pay each month during the remainder of the term 144th per month. So in layman's terms, it's amortized over 12 years. And if there's 12 months, if there's 1 year left on the lease term, then the tenant is only going to end up paying 1/12 of that replacement cost. A lot of landlords will want to negotiate this provision. If it's new construction, for example, some landlords will take the position that if it needs to be replaced at any point during your term, you should be responsible, tenant, for the entire cost of the replacement because it was new when we gave it to you and you received the full benefit of the useful life of the HVAC. And some landlords will want to just reduce this 12-year amortization period to 10 years or 8 years or 7. But the AIR provides for I think, middle of the road 12-year amortization period. Going back to the chat box, we're almost at 12:40. If that is within the warranty period, then 100% is lessor's responsibility. Yeah, yes, that's right. Going back to Thomas's HVAC question, if it's reported within the warranty period, the warranty applies, then lessor is responsible at its cost to replace it. That's right. Even if the HVAC has to be replaced, the lessor is responsible at its expense to fix it. So if it has to be replaced during the warranty period, at first glance, yes, the lessor would be fully responsible. I so much appreciate you joining. It's so nice to see your faces, to hear your questions. It's been a great discussion. Thank you again for joining, and we'll talk soon.